Now, it hasn't gone unnoticed that quite a lot of you seem to be enjoying our model railway content here on the Miniatures Workshop. So, we're going to do a short series introducing you to the next of my model railways. Now, you've already seen an introduction to Sunshine Sidings, which was, of course, a return to model railwaying for after 30 years or so of not really being into it very much or letting it slide by the wayside. Model wargaming sort of took over a little bit. So, based on the lessons that we've learnt on that, we thought it was time to expand and increase our knowledge and our abilities and do something a little bit more complicated. Because whilst the Inglenook is a fun little shunting puzzle, there's not a lot of operational stuff you can do. You shunt the wagons into the sequence that you've randomised, and then you just put them back and start again. Good fun, and certainly nice to introduce other people to railway modelling and operation, but we need something that was a little bit more complex. Now, a traditional layout is either your traditional circuit, much like a model train set, or an end-to-end where you come from a fiddle yard, off stage as it were, into the main station, run around the train, reshunt the wagons, and then head back off into the fiddle yard to the rest of the world down there. But that takes quite a lot of length, if not necessarily width. So how do we do it and fit it onto a shelf that's the same as our other shelves? Well, fear not, there is a way. Now, back in 1965, the Reverend, because it's quite often Reverends, Church of England vicars and model railways and rail enthusiasm seem to go hand in hand, the Reverend P.H. Heath came up with a small layout that was designed to fit on top of the upright piano in his study. Now, it was an excellent example of a minimum space layout, so it's obviously ideal for what we need to do, as long as we can make it fit. Now, fundamentally, what he did was, instead of having the fiddle yard off stage left or right, he actually put it at the back, which means that the line comes in roughly centre stage and into the station, and then your runaround loop that you need to reverse the engine to the other end so it can pull the train back out again is offset to cover the fiddle yard behind a back scene. Quite clever, and you can stick an extra siding in. Now, operationally, you get a lot more for your money with this. Not necessarily prototypical, though there are examples of it around the world, not very many in Great Britain. But at the same time, it does enable a fully operating layout, complete with arrivals and departures of passenger and goods services, and the original 1 foot fitted onto a 5 foot by 1 foot board, including the offstage fiddle yard. So, can we fit that onto our standard shelf that we're using for Sunshine Sidings? Can we get that onto this? That would be an excellent next step. So having done the Inglenook, let's now move on to the piano line. So if we draw it out, essentially that's kind of roughly scaled to the sort of shape we've got. What we're actually doing is putting the three-way point kind of here, and going straight off and into a fiddle yard there, with 1 point to give us 2, then bringing the midpoint of the three-way point out, bending it this way, ensuring we've got enough space for a terrier to run around there. We've got a point there, and then sticking another point in here, almost maybe straight after it, or a little bit, give it a bit of space and get more run round actually. Yeah, so the third part of this comes off there to build your run round loop. You've got your entrance, your station area there. If you push it forward, you could put the halt on that side. And if you bring this line in here, as long as you like, you could probably squeeze coal staves, loading dock and a crane, water tower at that end, the relief bit of a station building there, yard entrance there. Yeah. And of course, you've got your scenic brick here. Now, I'm going to put a board, or I'm thinking actually put a piece of hardboard just with a sort of sky coloured gap. And then low relief, just foliage along that to make it look like forest or trees, very either whitish. A tree or two here just to make it look like it's come through it. Yeah, and you can keep one tray there, you can bring one in, turn it round, bring the next one in, turn it round, muck about with them there, bring something else in, bring a freight, a goods train in, loop it around, drop some stuff off, go out, back out, light engine, bring stuff in and out there. Now, if this doesn't fit here, my other thought is do it as a cassette-based system. So you basically have your fiddle yard cassettes here, like Tracy Brothers have, and then just lift them out, put the next train and bring it in. You don't need the other point there, so this you make do with a three-way point, two other points. Literally 3 points, you've got an entirely working station. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, okay, you're only going to get small trains, but it's going to look like tiny little branch lines somewhere that Colonel Stevens would have put, or something on the other way. It's going to look, I think it might work. And Sunshine Sidings is fantastic. I'm very pleased with it. But this gives us some interesting operation within it as well. And it's still the gimmick, isn't it? What can you fit on this floating shelf? Take it down and play with it, stick it back away. And there's nothing to say we couldn't have this end here with a removable buffer stop, or have it so that Sunshine Sidings, and it's not going to link on quite level, but could tack on there. So that Sunshine Sidings pulls off this way into here and then gets shunted back off into that way. I might possibly be insane. It's rather late at night. These are the ideas we've been having fizzing through the head, Mr. Stew. Well, I'll let you have a think about that and see what you think. But, I mean, let's face it, the three-way point cost me like 25 quid on eBay, so I can always get another one for the fiddle yard for the multi-sectional, slightly more realistic one. But this might be a good next step. A little bit more complicated point work, possibly a little bit more complicated wiring, because obviously one input here won't feed back there, so we may need to get another feed, because if you feed it here, the electric's going to go that way, not back this way. So that might be an interesting learning curve as well, to make sure that the wiring works. But again, that's not going to be too problematic. I think there's just a bit of wire, maybe even slung under the baseboard, speed taped to the bottom so it's nice and smooth, and just connect, put a main feed there, and then maybe just a connection there to there, just so stuff can come in that way, or even connect here as another feed, so that this point can be changed. You can stick a loco in here, then bring another loco in by simply switching that point and isolating it because the feed's going that way. That could work. Again, all things to try. Ideas. I'm loving it. Anyway, enough for this. I've been on too long. Speak soon. Let's do this properly. Right, so you've seen that. So here is a standard one of our little shelves. So can we do a fiddle yard into a halt, into a reversing loop to run things around, into maybe a siding to drop things off as well, and a head shunt here? Well, there's enough head shunt for a terrier there. There's enough run round loop for two coaches to be cleared this way and then propelled backwards. But there's enough for two carriages plus a terrier down this end here. And there's enough space here for a very small but tidy two-road fiddle yard to have a goods train, a small, short goods train, and our passenger train here. But the reason it works is, what if we use the three-way point there? Saves us some space on there, only one item to use, means everything just works off that. But we can always put another, see that, where are we? So yes, you've got that bit there, which is going to be where that will bend into there, and that can always come off here. And run into a siding here to give us some sort of operational interest there as well. I think it's going to be tight, but I think it might work. I mean, it's probably worth tacking a few bits of track down and seeing if they fit, and then lifting them back off again, sticking the cork down and going for it if it works. It's at least worth a try, I think. What do you think? And so a date was set for some tacking down of a few bits of track to the shelf. I must at this point throw a thank you to my good and long-standing railway friend, Stuart Edwards, who we see here assisting with some measuring out as we were putting out some of the initial track pieces, and who assisted in lining up the vital, at this stage, three-way point. But, as always, no plan survives contact with the enemy. We got all the track down, and then the first of our problems hit.